Welcome back to Filmonomics at Slated. I'm Steph Paterno, and Sundance has finally come to a close as of last week. And as I'm sure you've already read in the trades, or the buzz you've heard, was that this was a very busy market indeed, with over 42 films having already sold, representing about $60 million in business. And we fully expect another 40 to 50 films to sell after Sundance, which is pretty typical after any market. Now, what was personally very gratifying for us at Slated was that 2/3 of the films that sold were from Slated members. And 2/3 of the films and people that won awards were Slated members as well. So overall, we're very representative of the quality of independent film that exists out there. And if you want to meet the people that are making the moves and making the waves, they're on Slated. Now, another interesting statistic was that the average price of each film being sold was about $2.9 million, which was just shy of the $3.5 million from the top-selling film last year. So the overall average was very high. And we've tracked all this data for you on a grid that we've published on the Filmonomics section of our website. So if you go click on over there, you can see everything that occurred at Sundance and get a good idea of who was involved and how much did they sell for and who were the buyers. Now, this season, Sundance 2015, is turning out to be a seller's market, just based on the volume of interest from distributors and the average price that they're putting down to acquire the rights. It's also showing the incredible confidence that producers and filmmakers are having by the way they're structuring their deals and how they are holding out in these bidding wars. For instance, Dope, which was produced by Nina Yang Bon Jovi, a Slated member, was able to sell her film for $7 million to Open Road. But the real kicker, aside from the fact that that price is twice as high as the highest selling film last year, is that they held out for a $15 million P&A commitment. That's the level of interest these films are getting from distributors. This is fantastic news for any other filmmaker out there at Sundance. Another film that got a great deal was A Walk in the Woods, starring Sundance founder Robert Redford. And a brand new distributor by the name of Broadgreen bought US rights for that film, estimated to be in the 7 figures, which is only second to Dope, which was this year's highest P&A commitment. Perhaps one of the most eye-popping deals has actually been from Fox Searchlight's acquisition of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. This film, produced by Indian Paintbrush, which is backed by billionaire Stephen Rails, was in a bidding war, with half a dozen companies bidding up the price all the way to $12 million, which is a record. In fact, it is over the prior records, which were for The Way, Way Back and Little Miss Sunshine and Hustle and Flow, which sold for $8, $9, $10 million. So that's quite a step up. However, what's eye-popping about it is that they ended up selling not for the highest price, but for the right partner. And so their sale to Fox is because they were being treated like a partner and being given more upside potential. Now, of course, being that this film was backed by Stephen Rails, the billionaire, means they can really afford to take the long view. Of course, billionaires usually become billionaires because they look at the big picture and can afford to make smarter, more thoughtful decisions by looking at the total market potential for a given service or a product, instead of simply blinking too early, selling the product too early, and losing all the upside potential. And so to make the best and most informed decision, you really need the right type of data. And that brings us to one of our favorite topics, which is about the impact of big data on the film industry. Now, there have been a couple of interesting stories that have recently come out. One of them based on Netflix and Netflix's approach to figuring out what films to buy and what films to highlight. And one of the interesting pieces of feedback that came back was that they say themselves that about 70% of their decisions are made by data analysis. However, with a human being in control of it. So about 30% of the decision is made by a person, an experienced person who really understands how the market works. And it's a combination effort. You let most of the filtering get done, sort of the low-level mass filtering get done by the analytics, but once you've identified all the potential winners, you need a human to not only understand how the analytics came to the conclusion, but ultimately of all the different winners in their list, which one to go for, based on maybe the current market environment or potential competition coming down the road or potential market demand. You always need a human supervising the analytics and the computers and the algorithms. Now, another interesting article came out, or story came out, which was about Sundance's Transparency Project. And Sundance has been spearheading this effort now for over a year, trying to collect data from all of the independent producers so that we can find out how much films were sold for, what were the MG amounts, what were the budgets of the films, and by collecting all this data and resharing it, they are providing a service, an analytical service that can help the average independent film producer better gauge what a film's potential financial performance could be. Now, we really applaud these efforts, both Sundance's and Netflix's approach, because ultimately, they're raising the bar for everybody. Now, we really believe that we need to raise the bar, that more data needs to be made universally accessible, smarter analytics needs to be made accessible, and all of it is improving. However, we need to remember we're still at version 1.0 of data and analytics for the film industry. We will need to see a version 2 and a version 3 and a version 4, and gradually people will be able to trust these systems more and more so we can work our way up from 70% analytics made decisions to 75 and 80 and 90. I always personally believe humans will need to be in charge of this because it's all we can do with algorithms and data is try our best to mimic the human understanding and the choices that are being made. But it can't lead the way quite yet, and I don't know that it ever will. However, we really applaud everybody's efforts doing this, and this is certainly a core part of Slated's philosophy. Anyway, I could go on about this a lot more, which I will in future segments. So thanks for tuning in. I'm hoping you enjoyed Sundance and look forward to seeing you at our next segment. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.